There's 17 compounds that are being launched. All of them are trying to prove that they can extend lifespan the most in each of the animals that we test in.
I would argue that Pump.science is the leading Solana DeSci project. It's starting to look like a NASDAQ for science or a science capital market, right?
There are some people who are literally posting on Twitter that we're scammers. Like, Riff, you're a scam.
If these tokens become incredibly successful, they become worth millions or billions, it transforms everything in how we do science.
Your goal as the scientist is to really direct attention to this project, show that it's potentially valuable, get other people excited about it. At the end of the day, so much of what we're competing for is attention, and attention is so scarce.
Benji, my favorite was when people started memeing Riff and the worm stays on, and it was like a worm with a little whiff hat. It was just brilliant. Agentic science has only just begun. The big pharma AI team is submitting these compounds. If these compounds start working better than anyone else, all of a sudden, we have proof that agentic scientists are better than human scientists.
The difference between this system, where it's basically like the intersection of AI, crypto, and bio, that makes us like way more positioned for that world, is that
Welcome to DeSci Pilled. I am your host, Ryan Bethencourt. I'm delighted to have Benji here, one of the co-founders and lead at Pump.science. He just came off of an incredible week at DeSci Berlin, and now he's going to tell us a little bit about what's been going on at DeSci Berlin, and also, apparently we have a bunch of new games, stadium science games for Pump.science. So I'm really looking, it's King of the Pill. I need to make sure I remember that. So King of the Pill, like King of the Hill. And then we're going to have 17 new compounds coming to Pump.science to see if they can extend lifespan of worms, flies, and mice. And then maybe us someday in the not too distant future. So Benji, thanks for joining us. Hi from Berlin. I know you're over there. You've probably been grinding away. So give us a little, like, what's been going on? How was DeSci Berlin?
Yeah, no, it's been a hell of a week. Super fun. Honestly, the DeSci energy is firing. I think, a bunch of catalysts have kind of led to this. I think Bio's launch catalyzed a lot of influx of, smart scientists' interest into DeSci, which is incredible. I think it's very interesting seeing year to year how the DeSci Berlin crowd changes. Definitely saw some changes this year versus last year. Can get into that. But overall, vibes were hot, and it was a really, really fun week, I must say.
Awesome. I mean, Berlin's a cool city anyway, right? And to have a bunch of scientists talking about science and crypto, honestly sounds like my dream. I wish I could have gone. Fortunately, I have a baby at home, so we're, I got to be focused. But very excited about hopefully joining for next year. I know there's a lot cooking in the DeSci trenches, and so what have you seen? Because I know, relatively speaking, I mean, DeSci on Solana is an absolute baby, right? Born basically in kind of December-ish last year, right? And then DeSci on ETH is still really, really young, right? It's maybe what, two years old roughly, right? How things changed this time around at DeSci Berlin?
I mean, there's definitely more Solana interest for sure. Like, I saw a lot of people in Solana swag, which is how I identify them.
Amazing. I rock that too. I have to be careful with my ETH maxi friends. They don't like that, but
but I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But you know which blockchain we're built on, so
I know which one you're about. We are on the same page.
Yeah,
The one
we are
with the highest total number of transactions of all blockchains combined. The one with the highest DEX volume. The one with the most people and wallets on it.
I know, but hey,
this
you gotta look at
purple color.
Yeah, you gotta look at Hyperliquid. I mean, give it up to them. They are crushing it. I think, this is obviously its own conversation, but I think.
And by the way, just a reminder for everyone: never financial or science or health advice. But yeah, Hyperliquid. I mean, it's been crazy to see the tweets and people talking about. I mean, people love Hyperliquid. It's obviously performed incredibly well. I think the previous belle of the ball was Sui, and now it's all about hype.
Yeah, and I
right?
think, I mean, there's the sentiment, and then there's like the actual on-chain data. Like, where's the mouth and where's the money? And I think what Hyperliquid is clearly showing is they're taking a ton of the perp dex volume. And so I think it's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
And I was
Definitely
just gonna
not
add,
rolling it
Benji,
out.
it was one of the funniest parts for those that are not in the crypto world. For those in crypto world, it's gonna seem like we saw this all play out. James Wynn was unclear whether it's a massive gambling addict, a very rich gambling addict who was just longing and shorting Bitcoin and getting wrecked. I think he lost about $100 million on chain.
Hmm.
It was literally absolute cinema, right?
Yes.
And it's unclear whether that's actually a person or it's a marketing stunt by Hype or what, but it was wild to watch.
Yeah. I mean, like, we'll never know. But what we do know is that Andrew Tate came out like a week later and was like, my turn, and then a link to Hyperliquid. So I think more and more of me believes that it was a marketing stunt, but regardless, like, super, super interesting dynamics. Um, but yeah, we'll never know.
Yeah, and there's no DeSci. As far as I'm aware, there's no DeSci on Hype, right? So, I think there's a handful of there's DeSci. As far as I'm aware, there's DeSci on obviously Solana, ETH, uh, a bit on Sui, and then a bit on Say. And I think that's about it, right? That I'm
Mhm.
aware of.
I think so. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So DeSci Berlin, the mix was new, so that I think one of the new additions for sure was all the Solana people, and I was Paul Paul, who heads up Molecule and Bio, commented because I was up very early. This is one of the benefits of becoming a morning person with a baby, and so I was watching the live stream, which was awesome, from DeSci Berlin while I was taking care of baby things. It looked really interesting. So it was obvious there were more people who were part of the ETH and the Solana ecosystem. So Solana ecosystem was definitely new. What other changes were you kind of seeing in DeSci Berlin?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say fewer VCs than previous years and more scientists, which is just an interesting, dual vector. I mean, probably more people at a DeSci Berlin event than I've ever seen. But yeah, I think like maybe some of the VC hype has faded and more of the scientists and builders are here and like trying to make, find different applications. I mean, just like the number of DAOs that are being created is awesome. And like all these different research areas. And, I'm just really excited about like, you know, everyone experimenting and seeing what sticks. I think ultimately like that is where we need to be, right? Rather than just like everyone being too fixated on, there being one use case, just finding all the potential use cases, seeing who can execute and make it work. But yeah, I mean, like, a ton of DAOs presented. I mean, like a ton that you've probably never heard of that didn't really know about until this event, but like Sleep DAO and Dick DAO and Fat DAO and like I mean let's see what works.
I am familiar with DAO, previously Erectus DAO. So I'm an advisor. Shout out to Dick DAO. It's a very serious DAO with a very serious mission for men's sexual health. But great name, great name. So
Totally,
yeah, yeah.
totally,
So
definitely got my attention.
yeah, it was. I mean, it's a fun one, right? So what is it? I think it's Truth Terminal basically says keep your dongers up. I just find that very funny. So Pump.science has continued to evolve. I mean, you have ridden the roller coaster, right? With Pump.science, I would argue that Pump.science is the leading Solana DeSci project, right? Talk us through the evolution. Talk us through the ride so far, because last time we talked, it was pretty rough. I think where things are now turning a corner, and I think people are very excited, at least from what I've seen in social media, Telegram. People are really excited about the new tokens and the new molecules that are coming out. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we went through like the full history in the previous podcast episode, so we definitely don't need to recount everything. I think if people want to go into history, they can just totally listen to the last one that we did together. But I think where we are now is like we have to realize the vision for the platform, which has all like been all along a launch pad for scientific experiments, right? Like that's been the vision all along. We haven't really kind of um executed exactly on that vision. I mean, we've only launched like five compounds to date, right? And so it's
Yeah.
time to really start to, enter the vast chemical space and, allow people to launch whatever compounds they want. And really, like, that's been the goal all along. I think it's more just been about finding the right timing to really start the flywheel, but we're basically there. Market's a bit rocky. We're probably just a few weeks away from really opening the floodgates. And yeah, that's really the goal, is just basically.
And the markets are always rocky, right? Like this is one of those things. It's like I've noticed on in the Telegram, everyone's like launch now, launch now, and there's never a right or wrong time. It's all rockiness, right? So you just never know, right?
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people come to us and say, well, if your product's good, people will come regardless of the market conditions. But, at the end of the day, you only have so many chances to launch, and you really want a tailwind. And if you want to give this thing the best chance it has to succeed, you have to launch it at the right time when there is a tailwind. And, had we launched like the original Riff and Euro compounds in, the dead of crypto winter 2022, do you think it would have worked? Probably not. Probably
No,
not.
no, no.
And so I think timing is more important than people fully appreciate. It's very easy on the sidelines to say, "Oh yeah, just launch now." But um, when you are here, I think what you really want to see is that people are trading, and there are kind of hard metrics to that, and there's also soft. I think the hard ones are like looking at DEX volume. Like, are people trading on chain? And they are trading, but just like at a much lower levels than they were
Hmm.
several months ago. At
Yeah,
the
but
at
we're
the
really
beginning of the year.
Benji, what really comes through is you and the Pump.science team have continued to keep build no matter what's going on with the market, right? And I think for a lot of people, that's very reassuring because it's like, hey, this team, you know, they told you what they were going to do and then they did it, right? They've stuck around. No one's rugged. Like price has been very volatile. One of my favorite things about crypto is the volatility. Like the volatility is the point. A lot of people go, "Oh, this is just too much." It's like then you shouldn't be in crypto, right? Then you shouldn't be honestly in markets because what we're seeing now is financial markets are starting to look like crypto markets. I mean, the insane pump and dumps we're seeing. Like there was recently, I think it was like SBET that was an Ethereum treasury company that basically the moment the lockup stopped, everyone just dumped their shares, right? I think it went down like 70, 80%, something like that. And the financial markets are now starting to reflect the volatility of the crypto markets, not the other way around.
Mhm.
Um, and so, that's probably the era that we're going into where everything is 24/7 moving and volatile, and you just have to accept that as part of the process of like, and there's opportunities in the volatility. Like I love the volatility that we've seen even in riff and euro. I love it. It's exciting, it's scary, it's everything.
Yeah, it's all the above.
It's crushing, sometimes it's crushing for those
I
of you
know,
that have
but
been long-term holders. It's crushing too, but that's part of it. That's part of the journey.
totally. And it's kind of funny that you say like, that the sentiment changes so much, but we build all along, because like there are some people that are in our Telegram now posting every day that, a few months ago were literally posting on Twitter that we're scammers. Like Riff Euro, scam, 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 scam. And now they're back in our Telegram, just like, every day, like, oh, we love you, keep building. Like,
Like Benji, I
anyway.
love you. I love you. It's kind of like the Trump and Musk drama, right? I love him more than any man could. As much as any man can love another man. I hate this guy. He's a pedo. Like again. Reality is now melding. If this is a simulation, it is the wildest simulation that the universal computer has thought of. So, all right. So talking about and I'm trying to think of a term. Uh, Science capital markets or something because looking at the Pump.science website. If you haven't been recently, for everyone watching, go to Pump.science, check it out. It's so cool. It's starting to look like kind of like a NASDAQ for science or a science capital market, right? It's starting to look like that, which is super cool.
Appreciate that, bro. And yeah, like that's kind of how we've been building, is to create these kind of internet capital markets for science. That's exactly right. And I think the world is waking up to how powerful these internet capital markets are, where, if you are a founder, and in our case, a scientist, you have like several ways to fundraise now. You have equity capital markets where you sell, your shares in your company. You have debt capital markets, so you can get loans, and now you have this third pool of like internet capital markets, which didn't exist before. And the latter is starting to show its power and is really only just heating up, as you know. But yeah, I think this is where we want scientists to look for funding, and that's kind of been the narrative all along with DeSci is like, tokenized IP, but really it's about internet capital markets and leveraging that for research. I think what things like Believe app have shown, and for those of you who don't know Believe app, it's basically a new launch pad on Solana as well, where you can basically fundraise for any sort of application you want to build through the volume generated by a token that's launched. And so I think, and it's raised a ton of money for a ton of startups to start building. And it's not raised through like, launching a token and selling the tokens. It's rather the revenue from the trading fees, from people being excited about your application. And so it's really that same concept that we've tried to pioneer as well for research. And what was super interesting is seeing how they made a lot of the same design decisions that we did. And yeah, have been very inspired by their quick rise to the top of kind of like the attention and volume, etc. So really, we're trying to apply the same kind of concepts, which is you launch an experiment into the world, and your goal as the scientist, or maybe a content creator you hire, is to really direct attention to this project, show that it's potentially valuable, get other people excited about it. At the end of the day, so much of what we're competing for is attention, and attention is so scarce. And I can see from the Twitter algorithm how volatile that is, depending on how active you are and how excited people are in the sentiment about your project on a day-to-day basis. But just like how we are able to kind of like break through the attention, like totally is variable.
Which for a lot of scientists is a muscle that they have to flex, right? Like you can't just go in there and just assume that people are going to care about your project. It just does not work like that. You have to educate people, tell them why your project is so important and why it's going to change. And honestly, the beauty of Pump.science is you can actually put your money where your mouth is. If you truly believe in a compound, you can put your money there and bet on it going up, right? And it actually extending the lifespan of first worms and then all the other species afterwards. And so, um, King of the Pill. Tell us about the hunter gatherers, King of the Pill, and then the 17 compounds that are coming. Because I'm excited. I don't know what the 17 compounds are, which I'm really excited about because I don't know, and I don't know if you're going to tell us. So I would love to hear more about the new Pump.science stuff that's coming.
Yeah, so I can pull up the full list and share it with you.
Beautiful,
But
beautiful.
we did announce it at DeSci Berlin,
Got
and
it. Okay.
yeah, let me get the full list. But
Perfect.
it's a combination of compounds you've heard of and compounds you've probably never heard of before, and that's kind of the point. We're excited to see what goes viral. Does stuff go viral because it's already well known, or does stuff go viral because people have no idea what the heck this is, but it works, right? And kind of back to what you're saying is like the scientists need to learn to flex this muscle of educating in an entertaining way that gets people excited when they otherwise wouldn't, and it's going to be hard, right? Like how
Mhm.
does one meme uridine and sulforaphane? Like most people have no idea what the heck that is, but there are totally ways to do it.
By the way, but Benji, my favorite was when people started memeing Riff. The worm stays on. It was for the whiff hat, right? And the worm
Exactly.
stays on, and it was like
Yeah.
a worm with a little whiff hat. From the it was just dog whiff hat. It was just brilliant. It was just
Yeah.
such a brilliant meme.
And it's these like individual like random narratives that people latch onto that are so hard to predict. You kind of just need to like have people create content and just see what sticks. And it's always something none of us could have ever expected. And
No.
that's honestly the best part about being, in this world is stuff goes viral for random reasons.
I love all these viral things. Like there's one that went viral on the new launch pad for um Bonk, the Bonk launchpad, and yeah, Bonk Fun. Let's Bonk or Bonk.fun. And it was Kaka. K-A-K-A. And I was like, how does caca go viral? Apparently, it was a squirrel in New York that was born in a toilet. And so I can't get it out of my mind. Like I have these memes of this squirrel, and it's like so funny. But like these things happen all the time.
Yeah.
All the like right now, the main token on the bonk.fun site is useless token. Literally
Yeah,
a token that is useless,
I
right?
know.
And it's
And
at
I
a
bought,
what 50
and I
you bought?
I bought useless, and I unfortunately sold it. Idiot.
Oh no.
Before it like 5x.
Oh
Anyway, it's
no.
another one of those things where it's like, it goes viral for hilarious reason. Like, people are like, what's this token? It's useless. You
It's
know?
useless. And then people are like, and it's entertaining. And I think what people don't understand with a lot of these tokens is that actually like the culture and the meme is part of the value, right? Of
Exactly.
these tokens. And it's like a new thing for us in many
Hmm.
ways, right?
Hmm.
And so it's just trying to understand and value these things. It's like IP. IP can be invisible. What's the value of Mickey? Well, you can kind of look at the value of Disney, but it extends beyond that, right? Because it's a cultural icon. And so,
Totally.
all right, so I keep distracting us. So let's talk about like the competition, the list. Like I think it's going to be amazing. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more about these compounds. And for those of you that like, you know, are don't understand, listen, write it down and like, Google it or chat GPT it later, right?
Yeah. No, no, no. All of these are great piece of advice, but and I know you keep distracting, but at the end of the day, like I think what you value and what I think people should give more appreciation to is the meme, because when you are trying to play in internet capital markets, the real currency is attention. And again, like the attention bottoms out at like the narrative, the thing that people latch onto, and it has to be funny or engaging, or like for some reason people have to give it their attention because it stoke some emotion, right? And so like we have to make each of these random compounds create an emotional reaction, right? So one compound that's launching, I'm just looking at the list here, is berberine and punicalagin. Probably never heard of either, but the ticker will be Burp. So hopefully that helps with
Oh,
the
I love
the
that. That
meta
kind of
value.
almost touches on fart coin, right? It's like burp
Exactly.
coin, right? I love
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, some of the compounds you've probably never heard of, like the ones I just mentioned, we're also launching caffeine. Another one's vitamin C and B12, EGCG, which is in green tea, the ginsenosides, which are in ginseng extract. And so, anyway, there's 17 compounds that are being launched. All of them are trying to prove that they can extend lifespan the most in each of the animals that we test in. And the winner, whoever gets the highest, right now it's RIF for the worms and it's Euro for the flies. Whichever one gets the highest gets airdrops. So basically, what we have, which I think is a unique mechanism in any sort of launch pad, is the top performer gets the airdrops of the future tokens. So it gives them a reason to come back to the new launches and care, right? Because they get a small piece of them. And it's also a reward for finding the top one. But for us, the top ranked is not meant by market cap, which it is probably in most crypto launch pads. It's by the scientific value and potential of each of the different compounds.
What an interesting structure, right? Because you can start to imagine like all of these complex derivatives that can be built on top of science itself, right? And so it's just really interesting to start thinking about things that do not yet exist, which I'm sure will.
Hmm.
Um, like
There's so
an
much design
index,
space.
like even like an index. Like I would love an index, a token that I could just buy that would index and would weight based on performance all the tokens or something like that, right? Where you just buy that. I don't know, the Pump.science token, maybe that becomes it. I don't know, but like one token to own them all, right? And so it's just like so you have that kind of S&P 500, but for science.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely something that we're interested in doing. It's not in like the short term roadmap, just because look, like we want people playing the game, which is finding the individual ones that will make it, rather than just getting the S&P 500 index token and then just being like, okay, hopefully everything else will find value, and hopefully other people will play the game. We want that. That's what we want people focused on doing.
and Benji, we want DeSci whales to emerge, right? We want people to make a lot of money on decentralized science so they can continue to fund decentralized science. Like we've seen this in all markets. Like I think a lot about Silicon Valley and like angel investors. Some of the biggest angel investors were people that struck it lucky with a small check into some of the earliest. I mean, Jason is one example, Jason Calcanis, of like he always talks about Uber. He turned something like, I think it was something like $10 or $20,000 into like $25 million, right? That launched his career as an angel investor and as someone in Silicon Valley, but it was a check that a normal person could have written, and then became like this, this big investor. And so it's going to be fascinating to see DeSci whales that are just normal people today that will eventually come back and fund more science and more risk taking. So that's really, to me, that's, I keep thinking of analogies like where can I find them in these nascent industries? Because DeSci is nascent. I think our market cap now is below $1 billion again, right? Like it's tiny, 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 tiny. Yeah.
Totally. And I think your point is key. And like obviously you have to be careful about, promising anything. But, one thing Paul and I talk about a lot is, how do you help people turn $10 into $1,000 really quickly? Because that is the addictive game in crypto. And to deny that is to deny the product market fit that exists already in crypto, right? That's what people are looking for. Like, how do you 100x or 1000x relatively quickly? And hopefully this is an engine for that. But of course, have to be careful about making promises. But
Of
it's
course. Yeah,
why
no promises. No promises here, but it's like the possibilities are fascinating because you can imagine how this will have effects in real life too, right? If these tokens become incredibly successful, they become worth millions, which Riff and Euro still are, or billions. It transforms everything in how we do science, and it's not just biology too, right? Like I think a lot of us think about biology, Heterodox Labs, which friends of the podcast, and we've done an interview with them before. Their focus is on theoretical physics and like how we bring innovation back to theoretical physics, right? And so it's just like it's going to be fascinating, like the next 5 to 10 years at DeSci.
100%.
Hmm.
But maybe just to bring it back to like this
Yeah.
game, it's really about like, trying to be the Jason Calacanis of DeSci. Like that's kind of what our platform is. It's like there's a bunch of compounds that are launched at super low valuations. How much is each one worth? Well, it's probably proportional to how well it performs, right? How well it can improve the health and lifespan of these different animals. And so, yeah, we're launching 17 compounds at first, but we have 20 also that are, basically getting tested right now. Some of them are already done. And then we'll have permissionless compound submissions after that, right? So then anyone will be able to list a compound, which will be so much fun.
That's gonna get really, really interesting, right? The moment you start to have people and what do you know what the submission fee is gonna be? Like, what's it gonna cost to kind of let's say you have a compound and you want to test it for longevity. I'm sure there are thousands of people that have ideas that would love to test these ideas, especially now with like these really advanced like deep research features on ChatGPT. You can you really can be like a 15-year-old doing a longevity project who decides, oh, I've got, I need to raise a little bit of money and I can test this compound because I'm pretty certain this compound is going to extend lifespan.
Exactly. And so we're trying to make the fees so low. Well, there's kind of a balance to strike here. If you make it too low, then what happens is people will launch a ton of compounds with no intention of amplifying it and of working on it, et cetera, right? Like
Yeah,
making it
the pump
successful.
fund problem, right?
Yeah.
Just
And
just launch
spam.
30,000 pump funds and then you just rug them all and that's how
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what we're afraid of. And I think that of course, it's a balance, and like you don't want it to be too high to where you create too much friction for people to submit compounds. So we're doing a nominal amount, which will be very small, with a zero point 0.1 sol, which
Okay.
right now is like
That's
10.
like super reasonable. That's
Yeah,
super reasonable. All
it'll be
right.
like 10 to $15, right? And
Okay.
so it's enough to where you won't just submit 1,000 and then just squat the IP, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's not so low, it's not so high that it'll stop you from doing it, right?
Okay.
And so initially we had set it to 3 sol, which is about $450, and then I was talking to some people who were interested in submitting a compound before, and they're like, well, now I need to go fundraise for that. 3 sols. I was like, oh no, it's probably too much. So, we've lowered it to, what we think is kind of like a reasonable amount.
And
It's
and
low.
you'll play with that, right? You'll see if
Yeah.
like if point 0.1 sol ends up being too low,
Mhm.
then you can kind of figure out, maybe it's between point 0.1 sol and 3 sol. That's
Yep.
that's kind of, that's the launch price.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
like so interesting. Like
Yeah.
the science plus tokenomics for hopefully everyone else watching and listening gets excited about this too, because it's like you're really rethinking science, like how we do science, because this is real science.
It is real. We're running all the experiments that are streamed on the site, and like basically if if there's funding for it and it's not going to harm the animals, then we're going to run it. And as long as it gets approved by an ethics board, we'll run it. And so, yeah, I mean, like there's of course like a lot of design choices that need to be made that are both for the success of the platform, and being a viral platform, but also for the success of science. Those have to align, right? And so, anyway, maybe coming back a little bit, yeah. So this hunter gatherer kind of like game that we're creating.
Yeah, this one's really fun. This hunter gatherer, I saw you talking about it at DeSci Berlin, so I think everyone else will find it fascinating. Like, what is the hunter gatherers?
It kind of comes back to the whole king of the pill, right? So, for example, if you hold Riff right now, you get airdrops of all of these tokens that we're launching because you purchased and held the token in the compound that extended the lifespan the most of the worms. And so the question is, are any of the new ones going to dethrone Riff? Are they going to increase the lifespan of Riff or of the worms more than Riff did? And if you think so, then you would buy one of these new tokens in the hopes of receiving the future airdrops of the future tokens that are launched. So that's kind of like the hunter mindset of like, I'm going to go find that new compound. I think that this one will do it. I'm going to buy that one because I think it'll dethrone Rift. And so that's kind of the hunter mindset. The gatherer mindset is more of like kind of what you were talking about, where you pick the ETF token, which like, you know what, I'm not going to go hunt. I don't know, NAD plus and alpha ketoglutarate from nicotinamide mononucleotide. So I'm just going to buy Riff. I only get a small airdrops of both, and just hope that none of the new compounds extend lifespan the most. So it's like kind of this more active, gameplay where you want to try and be a scientist, try and, find that next great compound, be the Jason Calacanis, or, be kind of like the more passive investor or the passive contributor
Yeah,
who,
the
the
farmer. You're
holder.
basically
Exactly.
farming. It's kind of like this, one token to rule them all. In this case, it's
Mhm.
Euro and Riff, right? And so at the moment, because they're kings of the pill, you just hold them, which I am, right? I'm very excited about what's coming, and so and then you'll get those, you'll get those. But I am both a hunter and a gatherer. I love all of it, and so I will be hunting for the compounds that I'm excited about. One of the things that I've been looking for, and I don't know if that's coming yet, is like metformin rapamycin, right? Like combos or variants of metformin and rapamycin. I'm sure people have kind of submitted them, have talked about what's the current thinking around those two compounds.
Around metformin and rapamycin,
Yeah. Hmm.
with
Yeah.
regards to our platform, or just largely speaking.
No, no, just Pump.science in general, because by the way, there's been controversy on both, right? Like, as I'm sure you've heard, like, I think Brian Johnson recently stopped taking rapamycin because he said it was actually not good for him. And then we've kind of seen, other people kind of arguing, actually, no, rapamycin is still the leading uh, drug or molecule that extends lifespan. So
We are creating the arena to answer these types of questions. And there's, ways to answer it with animals, but ultimately people care about humans. And so the problem is that it's so hard to get the human data to answer these questions. Humans are difficult to test on for a number of reasons. They're expensive, they live a long time, and they don't necessarily follow the study protocol. So like for a lot of reasons, they're just harder. The cool thing about animals is it's just a more controlled environment. And so even though they are not us, there's still like the studies themselves can be super valid in answering that question of are they likely to improve our lifespan? So um, rapamycin has been launched, it's been tested, and we actually have the results already. So that team that submitted it is actually like really good. I'm really excited about that team. They are they are both very crypto native, and they have some scientists that are part of this team. So they're going to crush it.
Amazing. And so that's going to be launched in one of the 17 compounds, right?
It's not. It'll be the batch that's following right after.
All right. There we
Exactly.
go. Okay. So then,
Yeah.
and then I guess, stay posted for the token name, right?
hmm
For the rapamycin. Okay.
Yeah. So that one is coming, and but there's a ton of other, again, random compounds you've probably never heard of, where the data is super interesting. Like some people. So basically, what we did, and what we're still enabling on the site is anyone can still submit an experiment. But the way we're doing it for these first is you submit the experiment, you pay the full 3 SOL to fund the worm experiment, and then we go run it. And then we bring the data back so that it's ready to go as soon as the token launches. So that the token launches and
interesting. So it's already primed with data.
exactly. So we
Oh,
have the
that's
data
where it's
in-house.
different. Okay, that's where it's different. Okay. So
Yes.
these tokens, so these 17 tokens are going to launch with worm data.
With worm data.
Day one.
Exactly. Day one. And so then
I didn't fully absorb that. So there we go. So maybe others who listen to the to your talk also, if they missed that, I apologize.
no, I apologize.
Fascinating.
But yeah,
Fascinating.
we got the data, and now it's just like, okay, when do we launch the token so that people are paying attention? Exactly.
Wow. So there might be some that just boom immediately, right? Because there might be some really strong data.
Exactly. That's the thinking.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and that's kind of that's how we want to generate virality, is like everyone's looking at all the different compounds. I don't know what this one does, but it's working. Right.
I'm glad I'm holding my riff in euro. I'm just very glad because like just like I don't have to make that decision that that because when these tokens launch, for those of you that have never tried to get into a hot token when it launches, it is, the charts are super volatile, and you end up getting so much buy pressure that you get slippage that just goes insane. Like it just goes boom, volatility goes through the roof. And so I'm glad that I don't have to kind of fight with the snipers and the bots and whatever else for the airdrop. So very, very happy to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just maybe like I'm realizing, like, I'm throwing out terms that maybe people don't know about, but like an airdrop is basically when you get tokens for free. So what that means is, like, again, going back to the gatherer mindset, if you hold Riff and Euro for free, you get the new tokens that are launched. So anyway, I just realized that, I didn't mention that before.
Benji, the amount of FOMO that the people who have like rage dumped Riff and Euro are about to have is going to be wild, because there are plenty of people who are like, oh, I'm tired of this, and they just sold their Riff and Euro, and the Pump.science game is not over, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, you don't want to hold. This is why volatility is honestly a great thing, right? Because it allows the true believers to kind of hold, and this has always been the case with crypto, right? Like the Bitcoin true believers, they were buying Bitcoin for under $1 sometimes, right? And they just held because they believed, and that created the value of the token. Like it's for those of us that are newer to crypto, it takes a lot of like mental, I don't know, restructuring to understand this weird world of crypto.
Totally. Because it's new, and no one knows how to price it, and no one knows what it's worth, and it's volatile. And so, and people are emotionally charged when they trade too. So there's like a lot of factors that have made, getting into this world very, like, jarring for a lot of people. But yeah. So anyway, there's gatherers, as we mentioned, there's the hunters, and the question is like how to hunt. Like, if you are not a scientist, can you still play this game? And, I think that for a few reasons you can. And I think that's important. Number one is we have AI now. So if you don't know what a compound is, the limiting factor is curiosity, because the tools are there to answer that question for you. You can go use all of the LLMs that exist to go help you answer any question that you want. For example, if we've already launched the names of the 17 compounds we're going to launch. Do they work? Like, you can go ask, the AI basically how to rank each one based on all of the scientific evidence that has been generated about each one, right? So you don't have to be a scientist anymore to answer this question. You just need to type it into any one of the LLMs, like which ones are likely to work better than others, and just follow the AI, right? That is one strategy. The other strategy is to, follow the data yourself. So as all of the compounds get launched, you'll have access to the data if you're actually watching the experiments and experimental data that's generated. Speed is also alpha. right? So
Mhm.
if you are hunting and you're looking at all of the different charts, the scientific charts, that's the, you know, indicator of which one is going to work and which one is likely to become the king of the pill. So, you know, the people that are watching price charts, they're not scientists. They just understand and like learn how to watch a chart. We're just creating a new chart, and that's the scientific data chart rather than the price chart. So anyway,
And Benji, have you seen anyone yet build like more advanced models to like, for those that are not familiar, like you go to the Pump.science website, you can see the data, right? And so oftentimes it's near real time. And so have you seen anyone trying to model the likelihood, let's say the worms, extended lifespan in worms, have you seen anyone try to use more advanced models to like predict what's going to happen next? Have you seen any or heard of anyone doing that?
no, we have not. But what we have seen people building models for is which compounds to submit. And so we're working with a few different. So the first kind of
Oh.
agentic application that we're looking at and working on
Oh.
teams with already is like the hypothesis generation side, which is what should
Super
be
powerful.
what should be
Yeah.
tested based on
Huh.
the evidence that's out there. And so we're actually working with like the big pharma team, the drugs token. They're going to create agents that submit compounds on Pump.science.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Okay. Okay.
so that'll be super fun where you basically have agents that are basically, you know, running, in silico computational models to like scour literature, look at drug targets, try and design compounds that should be tested, submit them, and then, internet capital markets fund them. And then, hopefully they're successful. I think the second application, which is one you're talking about, is which ones are valuable, right? Based off of the data that's been generated. And so I think that's like a secondary but super interesting application of agents, which is, the robo traders on this platform rather
Yeah.
than, having humans do it. Let's just let the AIs do it. It's so much data. It's hard to interpret, like perfect use case for AI.
I think what you brought up was actually fascinating. It's something that, I think in the DeSci conference was really highlighted that agentic science has only just begun, right? Like, the big pharma AI team submitting these compounds, if these compounds start working better than anyone else submitting, all of a sudden we have proof that agentic scientists are better than human scientists, right? And it's like, and there's
Let's
financial
find
rewards
out.
attached to that, right?
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, like you can start thinking through, okay, great, longevity, great. They start these agentic scientists start figuring out longevity better than humans, great. What about every other disease? What about every other area of science? It's about to be transformed. And so, like for me, there's a lot of excitement around robots and AI and whatever else. And I'm like, the moment you have like agentic scientists, by the way, eventually they'll become embodied, right? So eventually we'll go from hypothesis generation to hypothesis testing to improving the loop to eventually embodying these scientists, putting them in a lab and getting them to work 24/7 on testing these hypotheses. It will outwork, outthink all scientists. And so then what does it mean to be a scientist? It means to be on top of that stack of thinking about complex systems and how to unleash complex systems that you may not be able to know the outcome of those complex systems, right? Like it's like mind blowing because that's what, a decade away max.
Yeah. I mean, it's here and like we want to build toward it and for it. Right. And I think the difference between this system, where it's basically like the intersection of AI, crypto, and bio, that that makes us like way, way more positioned for that world, is that the agents will be able to get more resources if they're better. So what I mean is there are tons of companies and projects that are working on design, build, test loops. But what's different here is you have an arena of models, right? You have like all of and people, like everything is competing. The agents, the humans, both on the submission side, on the trading side, etc. But whoever wins gets more resources, right? They get more to test and improve on, right? And
which
so
which they can then use those resources to invest further into their
exactly,
platforms to
exactly,
accelerate improvement. So you have
yeah,
like this evolutionary type competition, of survival of the
exactly.
fittest pretty much with
You got
financial
it.
markets,
That's
right?
that's exactly it. It's the
Yeah.
combination of evolution of the science and evolution in the capital. It's
I mean,
crazy.
it's
Yeah,
it's nuts. Like
it's
I
insane.
we're probably like super nerding out. There's probably not that many people as excited as we are about this yet, but once it starts working, which by the way, it will, right? It will. It's inevitable. It'll start working. Once it starts working, it's going to transform everything about our world, right? Because we're going to start answering questions around baseline reality and improving baseline reality for humanity.
That's what matters. Like, it matters more than, the digital like memes. Like all of that's funny and it's important that we enjoy our lives and like have a laugh. But like changing our reality is, what should inspire us the most. It's about getting the flying cars, not just the 140 characters, as Peter Thiel says. So let's build the flying cars and let's build the systems that build the flying cars, right? And yeah, I think like when does this go viral? What does like working mean? I think if we can find compounds or combinations that can extend lifespan more than any compound that's ever been tested and published on, right? Like if we can extend the life of C. elegans more than anybody else in literature, I think that'll get a lot of the traditional scientists to really convert and say, okay, this is absolutely worth playing in this arena. And also if we can start to, run human tests and show we can move the needle on people's biometrics, improve their sleep, improve their cognition, improve their, VO2 max, like all these different metrics we can get on ourselves and actually move the needle on them in like randomized studies. I think this is when,
Benji, has anyone yet applied with any like reprogramming molecules? So, like Yamanaka type factors that would, are cellular reprogramming, because some of them are small molecules. And I know that there's, Brian from Coinbase has funded a company to literally go after this type of reprogramming, which is very promising. I think for T cells, they've already had really promising results. And then for like liver cells as well, right? Has anyone applied yet with any kind of cellular reprogramming molecule yet?
so someone has submitted a telomerase activator small molecule. So
Interesting.
somewhat along these lines of like these transcription factor activators. Yes. Yeah, some people have submitted them. I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, no, no, no. I
Well,
know this is still early. But like the fact that yes, people have submitted some kinds of reprogramming, because that's where we're gonna start seeing like, when do we start seeing like the upper caps of these lifespans popped off, right? And so I think that, and I suspect we might see it from some of these agentic scientists. I know Big Pharma AI is probably the first, but will not be the last of
yes.
the agentic scientists. So,
Yeah, it will
all
definitely
right.
not be the last.
All right, Benji. So if people want to learn more about these awesome, the king of the hill, the king of the pill, hunter-gatherer models, and the new 17 compounds, where should they go to find out more?
Yeah, so our X profile is at Pump.science. That's where we distribute most of our content. And yeah, our URL is Pump.science, but those are basically the two places to look after us. Ryan, thank you so much for having us. Really, really excited
Benji.
about these upcoming launches. Hope you are too.
I'm super
It's an
excited. Just
it,
for everyone to
yeah,
know, I'm super excited. That wasn't clear.
yeah. It'll be super fun. I hope that people see to like DeSci more than a fad. It's absolutely not over. In fact, it hasn't even started yet. I think is the important piece. And so yeah, hope other people are excited as we are. And yeah, thanks again for having us.
And onwards to the science capital markets, right? So,
Let's go. Let's
all
go.
right,
Here for it.
awesome.